welcome to How to Deal When the Shit Gets Real podcast. I'm Rietta, and today I'm here with Don Gleason, actually for the second time. So Don, welcome back, and tell us, how do you deal when the shit gets real? Or just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much, Rita. I appreciate the opportunity to get back together, and I love the title because it really is about that, right? How do we deal? Because every day, I listen to Darren Hardy and so many other personal growth experts, and they talk about life isn't going to be easy. Life's going to be hard, right? And if we ever think it's going to be easy, we're kidding ourselves. So how do we do it? And I think a lot of times, for me, it's relationships. It's also physical activity. I've been retired 15 years. I still get up most mornings at 4:50, head to the gym, or if I only have an hour, I do 3 or 4. Yesterday morning, I did 3.5 miles in the neighborhood, just getting that physical activity, getting sunshine, getting moving, and it usually clears my head. One thing I started during COVID was every hour I tried to take that 5-minute break, and I just walked down the street, and it was interesting how it just kind of reset my mind. All of a sudden, the pressure I was at, I was like, why am I doing that? That's not the way I want to do this. And I'd come back, recharged, refocused, and the next hour would be really good. So it's to me, it's physical activity. It's taking that break and rethinking.
I actually just had that conversation with my mom yesterday. She was like, I got out in the garden. I don't know why. I just felt better. I was like, because you were grounding yourself. You touched dirt. You connected with nature. That's why. That's
right. Yeah. And sometimes it is fun to get out. Right? People ask me, why do you still do your yard work? I'm 65. Why are you still doing your yard work? Well, A, I find a lot of pride in it. But B, that activity of doing it and then the pride of it just makes me feel really good.
Yeah, it does. It does make you feel good. Yeah. And I'm with you on listening to like self-improvement. I love like Tony Robbins podcasts and stuff like that. It's always nice to listen to. So that's a good reminder as well.
There you go. Yeah. Yep. It's not always about the money you can save, but there's something, because there's always that success piece of, well, if I do this, if I hire that out, it's going to cost me this much money, but then I can go do this, right? The cost trade-off, benefit trade-off. But that's tangible. But what about the intangible benefits, right? The mental health issues, the physical health issues. I got back Tuesday morning from the gym. It was just at sunrise, and I mowed, trimmed, swept the yard, fertilized it, because I had to get that ready for Wednesday for the watering, so we'd water the fertilizer in. But boy, you just feel good. And I got my 10,000 steps in, and that's what I need for my knee health. So it all kind of fit together.
Yeah, that knee health, man. I'm almost 40, which I'm not saying I'm old, but I'm telling you, the knees feel different than they did when I was 20.
Yep. Yeah, I had my right one replaced in June of 21, and my left one needs to be replaced, but I'm just not ready for it yet. It's not that bad. But I'm doing I just finished the 4-shot series of injections yesterday on my left knee. So I haven't thank God I haven't had to have knee injections for about 4 years.
Oh, that's good.
Since I had the other one replaced, because I do the 10,000 steps a day, and this is a natural lubrication, but it's finally wearing out.
Yeah. My mom's in the same spot as you. She's procrastinating getting her one knee done. She's like, it's not quite bad enough yet. It's not quite bad enough yet. I'm like, okay.
It was funny the first time I went out. I happened to have a appointment that afternoon with the orthopedic surgeon to talk about it, and because I'd been feeling pain, so I went out, and it was like 5:00 in the morning. I'm about 4 houses down the street, and I started doing some jumping jacks, and it popped, and I went down, and I couldn't put any pressure on it. So here I am at 5:00 in the morning, crawling back down the street. I get into the house, and I'm like, Karen. She's like, what? I said, I need some help. And I got to the couch and ended up going to the emergency room. And that took almost all the day. And I finally met with the orthopedic. And he goes, I've never had anybody come in here for an appointment in a wheelchair. I think you need it.
I would say so. Yeah.
And they had just opened up Fort Sam, but he couldn't get me in yet. So he had a civilian hospital that he was doing his replacements in. So it worked. It's been good. I'm glad I did it. So and I'll be glad when I do the other one. It's a process.
It is a process. Yeah, I worked in PT for a long time, physical therapy, so I rehabbed a lot of people with a lot of replaced knees.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to have a hip as well. So I'm just trying to keep them healthy.
I only had one person ever out of all the people that I rehab that did both knees at the same time, which was impressive.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah, I know, right?
I had a pastor at my church. He did over about a 5-month period. He did both knees, and I think it was partly Medicare or healthcare, right? Because you get the deductions through the year. So
yes, yes.
But that's intense.
It is intense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you were in the military, and now you kind of help people transition. And why did you get involved in that? And why do you think transition is so important?
I'm really key on we should be doing the things that we really enjoy in life. I don't understand why people jump into jobs just to earn a paycheck, and they hate it. And they literally, you can see it in their attitude, you can see it in their performance. I was just listening to an emotional intelligence training earlier today because that's something I got to be aware of as a coach. And you start noticing people around you who are just not as productive as they could be, they should be, they want to be. And it's like, why are you doing that? So what I've found is, in fact, my kind of my moniker a little bit is helping people find the job that energizes them so that they can have the life that fulfills them. I've came to that realization since we talked the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And energized is that job that you just feel excited to go to. You can't wait to get back into it. You still may leave at 5 o'clock, right? Because you got other things to do in life, but you don't regret having been there during the day. You don't think, oh God, I got to come back to this tomorrow morning. It's like, I can't wait till I get back. I got to work on that project and that project. I need to go talk to this person. And you have a whole different attitude. And I want people to have that kind of job. And I see so many people struggling in the world today. When you could be military and non-military with divorce, right? Bad jobs consume them, and it impacts the relationship with a spouse, significant other, with your kids, with your friends. People don't want to be around you anymore. And it just leads to divorce. It leads to separation. It leads to frustration and depression. And for military, we've been able to document 22 people a day committing suicide. And they say that the number one reason is career transition.
I did not know that part of it. I knew there was 22 a day, unfortunately, but I did not know it was so related to career.
It is. It's, we come into the military, and the military trains us on everything we need to do, right? They break us down. We reinstitute the values, the character, the career skills, all of those different things. But when you get out, you go through a 5-day career transition course, you get engaged with community, and they don't retrain you for getting out. And we think that we've got to retrain ourselves to be a civilian. I'm working with a young lady at the Massachusetts Veterans Chamber of Commerce, Mass VCC, and she's talking about, no, we need to be trained how to be a veteran. How do we take that skill set and instead of forgetting it, let's live into it. So I think that would be important. So I'll stop there. I think that's why it's I love people. I want to serve people. I want them to have the best life that I've had.
So for the people out there, because I'm sure there are people out there that are going, but Don, I can only get this job. I can't find one that I love, or it's a struggle to find one that I love, or one that makes me excited. What would you say to that person?
True statement. But I think there's some causes of that. The number one thing, and I work with Lori Norris, Lessons Learned for Veterans podcast out of Phoenix. She has been working with military in their transition for 20 plus years. And I just love what she teaches. And we've batted back and forth on things. And I think the number one issue is people aren't clear on what they really want to do. So Napoleon Hill wrote a book called, I can't think of it. How to be, remember the title? I can't think of the Napoleon Hill.
Are you talking about Think and Grow Rich?
Think and Grow Rich. Thank you. I don't know why I thought I was thinking millionaires. Like, nope, that's not it. Think and Grow Rich. And the number one thing he says in chapter 2 is you got to be clear on what you want. And I see so many people coming out of the military with, well, maybe I'll go do that, or I could go do this, or I could go do that. I mean, I'm the jack of all trades. It's what I've done for 20 or 30 years in the military, or 10 years. And that's what got me successful. And that's what my boss wanted. But that's not what the civilian market wants. Civilian market wants you to be the master of one, right? If you're an engineer, civil engineer, for me, environmental engineer, they wanted me to be really key on the restoration of contaminated sites. Wasn't all the other CE stuff, wasn't even all the environmental stuff. It was that. This is what your job role is going to be. And we, because of our training in the military, we shy away from that. We think, no, I want to be the jack of all trades. So we don't get specific. So therefore, when we pick up used to be the newspaper, right? You pick up a newspaper, where now you open up a website and say, well, what job can I do? Well, heck, we all can do tons of jobs, but which job do I really want to do? So when I got into my transition in 2008 and 2009, I started asking that question, what do I really want to do? And I knew I didn't want to do design, construction. I didn't want to do the actual construction itself. I didn't want to do facility maintenance. Those are all things I did very well in the military. Didn't want to do those. I wanted environmental and I wanted emergency management. I actually couldn't decide between the two of those. I struggled with that. But environmental was probably number one. And Booz Allen Hamilton hired me to do both of those. Primary environmental, second emergency management. They asked me to do a few other things as we went along, but they let me stay in that focus, and I loved it. I stayed for 9 years. And when most people leave, most people meaning 45% of military leave their first post-military job within 12 months. Can you believe that? So you stay less than 50%, stay less than a year.
That's crazy.
I stayed for 9 years.
Do they know why that they only stay for such a period of time? It's just unhappiness?
They're trying to understand that. It's the University of Syracuse, the Institute for Veterans and Military Families. They're doing more studies on really trying to understand why do people leave. And there's a 110-page report that I've got that I still got to dissect all the way through.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But it is.
Pages.
Yeah, but it is about what they thought they were getting into is not what they've got, right? It wasn't the right role. I thought this is what they meant, but it wasn't the right role that excited me. I thought they had the right values but I found quickly that they had a different value. The culture wasn't right. The leadership style wasn't right. So when I did my interview, I was asking a lot of those questions. Here's the second piece that, little tidbit for people. When they're doing the interview, what they like to do, because they say, you should ask them questions.
Yes.
So they'll say, I went to the website and I looked at this project. Tell me a little bit about the project. So yeah, you're showing that you've read the website. But to me, what's important is, what's important in this job that's going to make me happy? So for me, when I joined Booz Allen, I knew I wanted to develop my people. I'm a leader. I love leading people. I debated that. Do I want to be an individual contributor? Do I want to be a leader? I said, some of the best exciting times in the military was me leading people, helping them individually be better than they thought they could be. As a team, the team achieved things that they didn't think they could do. So when I decided I wanted to do that post-military, that really led me to how I wanted to proceed. And I thought then, how do I develop people? Well, Booz Allen had a 360-degree assessment process. So I asked about that, right? Because we weren't really developing the people anymore. It would become more of I can't think of the right word, but more of a tactical, just using people to get the job done instead of developing people to solve problems. Have you seen that in the things that with your husband and what you've seen?
Yeah, and the Marine Corps has changed a lot from what it even was 5 years ago.
Is that right?
So it's changed a lot, and he's in a completely different position now, so he's doing a lot of different things, but that's his thing, is trying to change how the Marine Corps does certain things. But obviously I support him, but I don't know his job like in and out.
Okay. Sure.
But yeah, he is definitely very much like you, very motivated to make changes, make things better. improve how the Marine Corps does things, which is very important. And I love that you brought up the fact that you should be asking questions in the interview, because I think a lot of people don't know that. Like, you should be asking questions back to the people that are interviewing you.
That's
Because
right.
I remember when I did it, even at my current job, when I got promoted and I asked questions, they were like, nobody else asked us any questions.
Yeah, it separates you. I'm laughing because when I interviewed with Booz Allen first, it was at this conference in Salt Lake City. I was assigned to the Pentagon, and I went out to the conference, and I had dinner with a bunch of the leaders of the company. And boy, they started pegging me with questions for like 2 hours, and I couldn't even eat my dinner. They kept taking it back to the kitchen and warming it up and bringing it back out. And finally, they looked at me and said, "Don, you should be asking us questions." And I'm like, I haven't had a chance. There was times where they had like 2 or 3 questions that they had asked me. It was like, how can Don manage, multiple things at the same time? So I'm thinking of all the different questions and I'm trying to answer them, but I'm trying to give a little story with them. And so I started then pegging them with questions for about the next hour. And it almost got to be a game. I hate to say that.
I was going to say, I think you owed it to him after that, after them
right.
just peppering you with questions for that long. Right. It only seems fair.
Yeah, we hit about 10 o'clock and I said, I don't know about you guys, but my butt hurts. I need to get up.
I'm tired. My brain has had enough. I'm going to bed.
That's right. Yeah. So
one thing too that I love that you mentioned in your pre-interview is that you talked about, like, a lot of people are making mistakes when it comes to the application process. And I see that a lot between military spouses and even just people in general, especially with the economy right now, that they're applying and they're either not hearing back or they're not getting the type of response that they were expecting. So what kind of advice, tips, whatever you want to call it, would you tell people that are really struggling in the application process?
Yeah. Two things. We've already hit one. I was going to say 3, but 2 things. One is the focus. Got to get clear on what you really want. 2 is understand the hiring process of the company you're going for. And this is a good reason, again, why you should focus, because you need to be working with a small number of companies, not 15 or 20 companies, 30 companies, right? You can't understand 30 companies. It's just way too much. But if when I was getting out of the military and I was looking at environmental engineering, there was a small 5 or 7 companies that really did that. So I really started to understand them and figure out where my connections were, where I had relationships, who could get me in, and I'd already invested in. And then I started understanding the company, because every company's hiring process is different. It really came to light one day. I was in the 4 block, and if anybody military, as you're getting out, and hopefully spouses, I think you're in there, they've got spouses are having seminars as well. They bring in companies every week and they talk about the different phases of transition, but they also make connections for interviews. And this one young lady in the room, it was on Zoom, and she said, I'm so frustrated. I have applied for 15 positions. This was Verizon. I'm not trying to peg them out. It's just use the name. 15 positions, and I can't get an interview. And he asked a quick question because he knew his process. He says, what day during the opening of the position do you apply? And she says, well, it's always the last day because I want to make my package as strong as possible. He said, there's the problem. We get 200 applications. We take the top 15 forward. The other 185 sit. You're on the bottom of that pile because they're all first in, last in, right? If one of those 15 fall out, we go back to the top of the pile. You will never get looked at. He says, the good thing is you're in this room. I'm going to look at you. We're going to pull your resume out of the bottom and we're going to talk to you. He says, but if you don't understand that process, you're not going to get looked at. Now, there are other companies that go through all 200 and they rack and stack them, right? They throw out the ones that are clearly not. It's like the 80-20 principle, right? 80% of them just aren't even going to be close. Who are in the top 20%? And then what is the 80% of that 20%, the top 4% that really apply? And they take those forward. So every company is different. Amazon, oh my God, they have a whole different process. There's like, if I understand it right, there's 5 people in the interview. And this is the interview piece. And one of them is strictly there to hear your view on all the different Amazon core values. You have to touch every one. If you miss one or you don't talk about it right, you're out. So you got to understand the process of the company you're applying for. I think that's so important. And then the third one would have to be that targeted resume. Really understand what that means. And I just got off the phone with a young lady, and she's been through the various trainings. And I don't think a lot of people really teach what a targeted resume is. I've sat down with companies. I said, what do you wish people knew? I said, wish they would answer the mail. I wish they would really write to the job advertisement and show us that they qualify, not just use general statements, responsibility bullets, I call it, right? I was responsible for a program of $5 million, doing this. I was like, okay, but that doesn't show how you qualify to do it for me. Tell me the problems you solve, the things you achieve, the results. And most people don't do that. They think they do, but they're not. So I think those all put together the three: focus, understand the company, and a targeted resume.
Can you elaborate on the targeted resume, what you mean by a targeted resume, and how people can start making their resume be like that?
Sure. To start with what most of them look like. Most of them, in the summary, is a summary that they pretty much use for every job. I served 25 years, bringing in projects on time, under budget. I'm a problem solver. It's glorious things that sound good, but when you look at the job advertisement, that's not what they're looking for, right? They're looking for somebody who's got maybe 10 years experience, 5 in this, 5 in that, got a degree in this, maybe a top secret clearance, whatever secret. And they've got some specific experience tackling this challenge. Well, that's what you need to write to. Because if they have 5 to 8 seconds, then they're going to be mindset, checking off boxes. Okay, these are the top 5 things I want. And sometimes it's hard to figure out what those are, but they usually tell you right up front. I'm looking for, these are the key things I need, right? The mandatory requirements: degree, certification, experience in this, years of experience. So your summary should very quickly hit those. Not a glorious statement about your 28-year career and how you got, I got 15 years experience for year 8. I've got 8 years in that particular area. I have achieved success in this area of what you're looking for, right? I've got the degree, got the security clearance, and then finish it with, I'm ready to work for you, or I'm looking to apply this, however you want to say it, apply this into this position that I'm applying for. And now they say, wow, look at that. Click, 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 click. This is somebody I want to read more. So the second piece is you go down to the experience. And this is the example. I could have said, I was responsible for the $12.8 billion Iraq reconstruction program, programming projects for the Iraqi reconstruction program, working with the ministries. Okay, sounds good, but it doesn't have anything to do with me and how I did the job. But what if I said, facing 100% cost overruns on a $100 million program, 100% cost overruns on a $100 million program, which was real. Don definitized the contracts, the $12.8 billion program, and implemented earned value, avoiding cost overruns on projects for the next 2 years. Now I got a little bit more specific. A little bit of, oh, wow, Don led a team to put, that's not easy. Now, most people don't know what definitize means, so you have to define that, right? And I actually asked a group of contracting officers in Europe when I got back, I said, how many people know what definitize means? Because I didn't. And most everybody said no. And it's nothing more than the government and the contractor agreeing on cost, schedule, and scope on a cost plus type contract. So you have targets to shoot for. That's what was happening on those $100 million contracts. There was no target. They didn't have a measuring, right? They didn't have earned value where they could measure where they were at on the contract. So when we implemented that, boom, it achieved huge success because now we were managing the program. And to most project managers, it's like, well, of course you have that. That's not what we had. So it was a piece of work to put it in. So when you can talk those specifics in your experience section, they're going to say, wow, think about how they could apply it back. And you need to try to speak it in terms of what they're asking you to do, right? I'm going to get into a design and construction for environmental, and I'm trying to think this off the cuff here, and they're looking for a certain type of skill, certain type of results. I need to spin my story, not lie, spin my story to show that I can do that. Most people don't bring that connection. They don't get to the specifics like I just talked about, and they don't show that connection back to the role that they're asking you to perform. Because when they read that resume, they should say, wow, they got all the things I'm looking for, and I think they could do that here. I want to talk to them in an interview. That's what you want.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You're, like you said, you're essentially speaking their language.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're also proving that you read the job description in detail, you understood the job description, and you're purposely proving not only that you read it, but that you can fit the specifications that they're looking for.
That's right. Nailed it. Yeah.
I definitely think a lot of people just think like more of quantity over quality. Like, oh, if I get 15 resumes out, somebody's got to say yes, instead of what you talked about, actually making it very specific for each job that they apply to.
That's right. And the beauty now with AI, again, this lady that I just talked to, she said, I'm using AI. Instead of 3 to 4 hours per job to make it targeted, I can do it in an hour. And I've been playing around a lot with it. I was frustrated for a while, and I've been talking to people, and I'm starting to understand AI and how to leverage it. And she said, based upon read this job ad, tell me what the top 5 keywords are that I should be looking for. And here's my resume. What are the things that directly apply from my resume to answer those 5? Boom, it pops it right out. Okay, now I can play with that, right? I don't have to go search it, but it gives you the 90%, 80% solution. Then you go back and reword it. So, and I use it for like writing a bullet. And I'll say, okay, give me a bullet that talks about this off of this resume that applies to here. And it only knows what it knows, so it'll pull it out. And I say, okay, but if I think about the STAR method, situation, task, action, result, help me beef up that. What question do I need to ask to beef up the situation? And it'll give me a question back. Oh, well, that's the answer. Okay, so here was my situation. Okay, so what problem solving are they looking for that I could apply? So they'd ask me a question. Oh, okay, so I put that in. So it becomes a back and forth with AI. ChatGPT is what I've been using. And there are several, and each one has its own characteristics. So I'm learning how to leverage that tool to save me time and get a better product.
Yeah. I know a lot of people kind of snub AI right now or aren't big fans of AI, but I do think that is going to change a lot, especially like in the aspect you're talking about. It's one thing if like people were using it to like plagiarize or write a book or whatever, but when you're using it just to kind of help you problem solve, I think that's very different. And I mean, why not? Sometimes you just need that little bit, that little, like you talked about, I just need this bullet. And then once ChatGPT gives me this bullet, then I can take it the rest of the way.
Yeah. I have used it to draft a chapter for a book. I have used it to give me thoughts, draft slides for a presentation. I had one, I said, I wanted to do a leadership graduation, and I wanted to talk about what's next. Here's the key things I think about. Draft me a presentation that hits those, and anything else you see as key. In that, I'm looking for 15 minutes, 15 slides, boom. And then I think it actually gave me like enough for 30 minutes, and I had to cut it back down, and I zeroed in some experience. So I had to add things in, but it gave me a framework.
Yes.
It saved me a lot of time. So, but it's all about how you ask the question.
Yes.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT learns from you. So the more it learns about you, the more accurately it can respond based on your personality and your needs.
That's right. Yeah, it sounds like you've used it fairly extensively.
I have used it, not super extensively, but I definitely use it I use it at work because one thing I am not good at is formulas for like Google Sheets. So I'll literally tell it like, I need a Google Sheet formula that does X, Y, and Z. Can you write it for me? And it'll be like you said, boom, instantly. You want to do this, and based on that, you need this formula. And it even tells you, like, put it in this column. And I'm like, this is fantastic because I don't know how to do any of this.
Yeah. I had people kind of scoff at this one a little bit, but I was coming up on the election last year, fall of 2000, just for timing, fall of 2024, right? Biden versus Trump. and I asked a question: what are the 5 key economic indicators that we should be concerned about for our economy? The top 5 things, and it gave me 5. And I said, okay, use those for each of the presidents over the last. I went back to 2000, so over the past 24 years. Use those 5 economic indicators over the last 20 years. Break it down by each president, how they started and ended on each of those indicators, and what were the key things that they were impacted or they had no control over, and give me the citation of the source that you used for that data.
Ooh.
And it gave it right out, and I could go back to the citation of the source, and you could see if, because people will say, "Oh, I don't agree with that source." Well, was it an authoritative source or just an opinionated source, right? And really gave me a neat perspective on that. And I keep playing around with it in different ways and asking different questions. And instead of, if I'm going to spend a bunch of time searching on Google, then I want to ask ChatGPT to do it for me.
Yeah, it could do it much faster than we can. Yeah. That's for dang sure.
That's right. That's right.
So you are a coach now. So
mm-hmm.
What led you into coaching? I know you kind of touched on this a little bit because you did mention you like to be a leader and all that, but like what led you into coaching? And if people do want to work with you, how can they do so?
It's kind of interesting. Being an engineer, in the DISC person, are you familiar with the DISC personality assessment?
Yes, I think I had to do it for my job when I first started, but I couldn't tell you where I fall. I don't remember.
Okay. And there are tons of assessments out there, right? There's the Strength Finders, there's DISC, and there's various methods of DISC with colors and all kinds of stuff. And then there's Myers-Briggs, and there's love languages, and they're all good. So I'm not trying to say one over another. I just happen to be certified as a consultant in the DISC because it really resonates with me. And
what do they stand for again? Remind us what each letter stands for.
It's not really an acronym, but D is decisive. I is, what is it? Intuitive, inspiring, influential. S is steady, stable, and C is compliant, data, analytical. So your D and your C are both task-oriented. Your I and your S are both people-oriented.
Yeah, I want to say I was an I, maybe.
Okay.
Not 100% sure. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, your D's and your I's are outgoing, and your S's and C's are reserved. So I'm an SC, so more people-oriented than compliant, still compliant. So most engineers are C's because we love data, we love processes, we love rules. I'm finding my people-oriented side is much stronger than my analytical side. So when you ask about why am I a coach, I love talking to people. Last week, I was at a society, you can see my banner behind me, Society of American Military Engineers. We had a small business market research fair, and I volunteered. And on Tuesday, I just volunteered to help on the golf tournament, and then I got to be the MC for the luncheon for the awards and stuff. And then the next day, I did registration for the conference and took pictures of the speakers and just helped where I could. But what I loved was all the interaction to all the friends that I had and the people that were there and meeting new people. And I sat back at the end of the day and was like, why do I really enjoy that? It was because I got to ask questions and get to know people and get them to think into it. Some people asked me, said, Don, are you retired? I said, well, I'm not really retired. I'm at least half time. And what I love is helping people. I said, when are you thinking about it? So this was interesting. Last summer, I did a big 30-day vacation. We saw a bunch of my old commanders, mentors, and stuff. And what's interesting is hardly anybody asked me about me. I was like, well, that's kind of really disappointing. I talked to one commander, and he spent the entire day rehashing all the things we did at that assignment, and then what made it special for him. And I was like, well, that's kind of neat, but it wasn't really a conversation.
Yeah, no, that's not a conversation.
Yeah. So what I love with coaching is getting people to dig inside themselves, understand them, and help them move toward their goal. In career transition, it's about getting that job that fulfills them, right? A life that fulfills them, right? It could be working with a missionary and helping them raise their their support, financial support. I'm working with was a college student. Now she's a government employee, and helping her progress and get through the imposter syndrome. And, do I deserve to be in that room? How do I approach the colonels and lieutenant colonels? Since I was one, right? So I can mentor and I can coach. And I just love, she wrote back to me this week and said, you wouldn't believe how successful I've been because of the conversations we've had.
Love that.
Yeah. So we just started a new coaching 6 months. So that's why I love it. It's about helping people.
Yeah. And so how can people connect with you if they want to?
Yeah, always the best way is I have a website, achievenewheights.com. I always envision helping people achieve new heights in their career, walking together with them up the hill. It's kind of the picture that I use. And it's on my website. So you can go to the website, you can go to LinkedIn to Achieve New Heights, or you can just go to my personal page, Don Gleason, but it has a middle initial L. So Don L. Gleason. I'm the only one that uses the middle initial. And just send a note and say, hey, I saw you here on the How Do You Deal When the Shit Gets Real with Rita? And I would love to have a conversation with you about career transition or anything else. And we'll get together and talk. I just love helping people.
I love the name.
Yeah. So it's all to me about helping people get to where they're at, where they want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Get out of that frustration stage.
That's right. Yeah. Why go through life frustrated?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Yeah.
Why? Yeah, exactly. And I know you mentioned Think and Grow Rich, but is there any other books or resources that you think are really important or helpful that you'd like to share with us? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that one. Think and Grow Rich has been huge for me. I'm going to mention Outwitting the Devil, which is the corollary to Think and Grow Rich. It's Napoleon Hill basically interviewing the devil, going through the subjects of the book, Think and Grow Rich. But at the very end, he talks about what is the most powerful thing, Mr. Devil, that you have over humans. And he says, I can make them wander.
Ooh.
And he says, well, tell me what that means, right? And it's about, I can get them so focused on so many different things that they're not, which goes back to chapter 2, like we said, right? You got to know specifically what you're looking for. The most powerful thing we can do is say no to all these other good things, so we say yes to the most valuable things in our life. And if I can the devil says, if I can get you to think about all these other things, then you're not specific here, and you're not going to be successful, and I win. Think back to our conversation on focus, right? If you want to be the jack of all trades and do any and all of these things, then you're not leveraging your skills to do the best thing you could do. And the devil wins.
Apparently this is a sign that my audience needs to read Napoleon Hill, because you're the second person in the last couple of interviews that's brought up Napoleon Hill. So here's your sign, y'all. Go read Napoleon Hill.
Yeah. You knew it right away when I said it. Have you read the book, and what was the best part for you?
I'm actually reading it right now. I had it on my shelf for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it has been recommended to me numerous times. I think I'm only on like chapter 3 right now. So I knew exactly what you're talking about in chapter 2, because I just read chapter 2 recently.
Yeah.
Which is even a harder thing for me, because I am definitely, as a creative person, I want to do all the things. I want to podcast, I want to write, so it's hard to be like, what? I can only do one thing. But I always go back to Bashar, which I don't know if you ever follow Bashar, but he talks about red and green light synchronicities. So just because you don't do it right now, it just means it's a red light synchronicity, and this one's green, and then eventually that one will be green.
That's right. I am going through right now changing how I'm doing my business, because I have not enjoyed the process. And Darren Hardy and others, he's another guy that the Compound Effect is another great book. But listening to Darren Hardy every day on his Darren Daily, he talks about, there's a lot of times in your job it's going to suck, but it's the end achievement. It's the goal at the end that really drives you, that makes you so happy to be there. So nothing's going to be great, but I just got tired of chasing people. So I've been thinking about a podcast and getting my word out and writing a book. because I think I could reach more people with the stuff we've been talking about with a targeted resume, how to really target a resume. And I want to give clear examples and build it out. And then I want to speak about that. And so it's not so much about chasing people to try to sell them a product, but it's, how can I really help them get that job?
Yeah. And like we talked about before we started recording, which this is going to be hard for some people to swallow, but success isn't only measured monetarily, right? But so many of us get caught up thinking, well, I'm not making a lot of money, so I must not be successful. But that's not necessarily true.
That's right. And my wife reminded me of that. She goes, you're in a spot after your military career and now the VA disability and Social Security. Says, you really don't need to work. Why are you doing this? And then she finally just said, you know what? Don't worry about the money. Just help people. But be there for me. Like, yeah. So we do a lot of camping. We do bird watching. We're going to Alaska this summer. We're going to Utah this summer. We're going to New York City and Miami in September. We follow the Detroit Tigers around, and we're at 21 stadiums, and we're trying to get to all the state parks in Texas. And so we have goals as we do it. But I think we saw 65 different bird species this weekend.
That's so awesome. Yeah, and I'm jealous of your Tigers now, because I'm 90% sure he went to you. The White Sox color guy, who I actually went to high school with, went to Detroit, and you've got a great guy. Yeah, his name's Jason Benetti.
Okay, I'll look him up.
He's a fantastic color man. He actually, usually there are people that have played ball before, right? Yeah. But he has CP. So he never played baseball, but he is fantastic. He has a great voice for it. I don't know why the White Sox didn't keep him. I'm sure there's some weird controversy that I'm not even going to look into, but I'm pretty sure he went to Detroit, and y'all are lucky.
Oh, good. We've had some really good ones with Ernie Harwell, and Al Kaline was there for a number of years, who was a star of the Tigers. And unfortunately, when I was in Wisconsin, I could listen to WJR out of Detroit as it skipped across Lake Michigan. I would do it every night. I would score. I'm a C, right? Analytical. I'm scoring the games. I'm keeping statistics. I'm looking at the newspaper to see if they got it right. And now I'm down here in Texas, and I cannot get a game. I can't get them on iHeart. I can't get them on anything. And I just look at it on ESPN and kind of follow it play by play periodically. But I'd love to hear that guy.
You sound like my dad. He moved here by us, and he's huge baseball too. Yeah. So it's, even though the White Sox are terrible, he still likes to at least know what's going on with.
Yeah, is White Sox your team?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, Tigers had many rough years, so you guys you'll turn again as well as we just did.
That's one of the great things about sports, and I can't be upset. I've seen every Chicago team win a championship except the Bears, and as long as they do it before I die, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, the Bears won in.
I was in my mom's tummy.
Oh yeah, 1986.
Yeah. They won. Okay. Yeah, the Super Bowl was in '86. Yeah. So I was born in February.
Oh really? So
I was born like 2 weeks later.
Interesting. Yeah, I was hosting a party. I was at Squadron Officer School in the military, and we invited my whole seminar over, and we were having a great time in the first half, and the Bears were kicking, I think it was New England's butt, and everybody went home at lunch at halftime to study. There sits my wife and I like, well, thinking back to my relationships piece, right? That didn't work out the way I intended. So, well, great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
And I want to say publicly, thank you for being a military spouse. We talked about it before the recording, but military spouses are so valuable to the military, and I hope we never lose that. They joke around in the Army, right? If we wanted you to have a spouse, we would have issued you one.
Oh,
but in every service, the things the spouses do to keep the base operation. I mean, just what my wife did with the organization. She'd bring in, cake every month for the birthdays. The airmen would come up. She'd establish relationships. I would go down. I got to meet airmen I never would have met before. It wasn't a job-oriented conversation. It wasn't a discipline-oriented conversation. It was a let me get to know you conversation. Yes. And I think it allowed me to be a person to my organization because of what my wife did. And she did it. She got to be a person. So we had a great relationship with the people. It was so much fun.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a wild ride, and it's interesting now because my husband's a gunner, and there's only 100 gunners in the
Mhm.
entire Marine Corps,
Oh,
so
wow.
it puts me in a higher position automatically
Mhm.
because people look up to him, and then I'm the wife. So like, it's weird to
Mhm.
kind of have to like, I don't want to say participate because it makes it sound like I didn't participate before, but like I'm seen more, I'm more visual
Mhm.
now that he's kind of a part of the command. So
That's
that's
right.
already been interesting, but it's like it's nice, like you talked about. I can talk to the younger wives that don't know what to expect, that have never been on a
Mhm.
deployment or have never dealt with a deployment. So yeah, it's an interesting ride, that's for sure.
That's it. Yeah. Not to make this long, we myself and 50 Air Force civil engineers deployed during Desert Storm, and my wife stayed back. We were in Germany, and a lot of these were very young wives, right? Airmen, maybe staff sergeants, spouses, and didn't understand it. Leave an earnings statement, didn't understand budgeting, didn't understand,
Mhm.
a lot of different things. So my wife was actually doing classes almost every week trying to help people
Yeah.
understand these pieces because the husband had done the budgeting and all this stuff. And it was really interesting to see the reaction of the military, how their spouse had done so well. And you would think that would be good, but some of them didn't like them being independent. So it was kind of a surprising reaction, but that taught me a lot as I went forward
Mhm.
in my career. So
Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, it's definitely interesting, but it's
that's
good.
right.
It's
That's
good.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
Yeah.
again for the opportunity to be here again. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for what you're
Yeah.
doing. You are serving so many people by your podcast, and I'm impressed.
That is the hope, and hopefully you'll be doing the same. That you
Mm,
aren't already because you're a coach,
mm,
but hopefully you'll be doing the same when you start a podcast or write a book.
mm.
So
Yeah.
we are all wishing you well, and thank you so
Thanks.
much for being here.
Thank you.
And this is how to deal when the shit gets real, guys. I will see you all next episode.